What's up? Welcome to this new video. My name is Myro, or Robin, depends on what you want to call me. Whatever you prefer, I don't mind really. This video is about lore, specifically Bloodborne. I'm not sure if you know, Bloodborne is my all-time favorite game ever, above anything else. Like, I do love the Soulsborne games, I do love Armored Core games, not that I've played many, but I've seen a lot of it. But specifically to lore in Bloodborne, I feel like I don't know much of it. I know specific things like about the nightmare, about Kos, about some other things, but I don't know a lot about it. So today I want to go with you to watch maybe a couple videos about the specific Bloodborne lore, to see what my reaction is to it, what I think of it, if I'm surprised or if I knew that already. So let's dive into it. All right, we're going to watch the video from Vaatividya, because from the Elden Ring videos that I've seen, like maybe one or two, the way he explains stuff is amazing. I love it. This video, though, is from 8 years ago, and I don't know why, but I've never seen it before. If you haven't seen this video, I'll link it into the description, because that's only fair. And if Vaatividya sees this, like, I just want to know about this and I want to share it with the people, okay? Bloodborne explained. This is a 30-minute video. There's also a shorter version. Let me see if the sound is not too loud for y'all. So we're taking the longer version, and I think this will cover everything, I hope. So let's do it. Let's watch it.
The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear. And the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. H.P. Lovecraft.
Our eyes are yet to open.
I love Lovecraftian horror.
Fear the old blood.
These were the words spoken between Master Willam and Lawrence, from the cautious teacher to the ambitious student. Fear what you do not understand. Fear the old blood.
Lawrence is the fucking shittiest boss in the game. Yet I always kill it within 5 tries.
And so our story begins, as you might have guessed, with blood. Ancient blood. Deep below the city of Yharnam lies the ancient underground labyrinth of Tumeru. You know it as the Chalice Dungeons. The old labyrinth was carved out by the Tumerians, superhuman beings that are said to have discovered a sinister truth.
So, I actually haven't done much in terms of the challenge dungeons. I've done a couple, but not like all of them. So maybe I should do that on the next playthrough.
The hunters had another name for the labyrinth. They called it the Tomb of the Gods, for below they found traces of godlike beings named the Great Ones. The Great Ones could function on transcendental planes of thought, meaning they had elevated their consciousness beyond the physical realm.
Ebrietas is a terrifying being, I tell you.
The benefits of operating on this plane are unclear. Perhaps it was in the name of immortality, or perhaps power, as even beyond, the Great Ones could interfere with beings and events in the waking world. Whatever the case, it is clear that some sort of ascension took place, as there are numerous references to some Great Ones being left behind. Of all the strange life forms that reside in the nooks and crannies of the old labyrinth, the slugs are clear signs of the left-behind Great Ones.
So, I never really would have thought that there would be lore in the challenge dungeons, because I thought it was just like a challenge. So that's maybe my fault.
One such Great One appears to be abandoned Ebrietas, a left-behind being who apparently did not ascend with her brethren. One day, Ebrietas would be discovered by the humans above, in a crusade that begins with a character named Willam.
Ebrietas is literally one of the worst bosses that I faced. Took me a while to beat her, especially the first time when I played Bloodborne. It's quite a while ago.
Master Willam presided over a prestigious place of learning, Bergenworth. Situated by a tranquil lake and secluded within a gigantic forest, Bergenworth housed the minds that would change the world. In fact, everything sacred in Yharnam came to be traced back to Bergenworth. including
The worst
most
area.
influential characters within our story.
One of the worst areas here.
Bloodborne's lore is very character-driven, and there are 5 who I'm going to help you become familiar with. There was Master Willam, Runesmith Carol, Lawrence, Mikolash, and Gurman. I'll introduce them to you in the order that they become relevant in the story.
Okay.
As I said, Master Willam was the head of the school at Bergenworth. The man was obsessed with the truth and believed in pushing the limits of humanity. In almost every dialogue and description, Willam is referred to as Master or Provost, clearly deserving of a great deal of respect. Many would eventually diverge from his tutorage, but few can say that they didn't owe everything to his research, for while Willam presided over Bergenworth, the scholars there discovered terrific things in the tombs below the city of Yharnam.
Once, a group of young Bergenworth scholars discovered a holy medium deep within the tomb. This led to the founding of the Healing Church and the establishment of blood healing.
It's hard to be sure exactly what was found, but we do know it was related to the Great Ones. On the ground floor of Bergenworth College, we find the Pearl Slugs, remnants of the Great Ones, and at the very top of the college, we find the empty Phantasm Shell, an empty invertebrate shell that is said to be the familiar of a Great One. After this discovery, whatever it was that showed them that the Great Ones existed, the Bergenworth scholars launched an inquiry into the Great Ones and the Old Blood. For from this point onwards, there is an explosion of lore and history and references to what the scholars found in the tombs below Yharnam. Many of these references come from Runesmith Carol, the second character of our story. Carol transcribed the inhuman utterings of the Great Ones into what we now call Carol runes. In true Lovecraftian fashion, it is really likely that it's impossible for humans to comprehend the speech of the Great Ones, but Carol apparently had a knack, a talent, for creating a visual representation of the Great One's words. The hunter who receives this workshop tool can etch Carol runes into their mind to attain their wondrous strength. Provost Willam would have been proud of Carol's runes, as they do not rely upon blood in any measure. This statement is curious. It tells us 3 things. First, Provost Willam and Carol were close, as Willam would have been proud of him. And second, Willam didn't have a chance to be proud, so it's possible that the two lost contact. And thirdly, and most importantly, Willam would have been proud because the runes did not rely on blood. In other words, Willam did not approve the use of the old blood, the blood found in the Tomb of the Gods. The Metamorphosis rune states, the discovery of blood made their dream of evolution a reality. Metamorphosis and the excesses and deviation that followed was only the beginning. Willam believed in a different path. He believed in attaining more insight, for humanity's eyes had yet to open. The Eye rune states that Master Willam looked to beings from higher planes for guidance, and sought to line his brain with eyes in order to elevate his thoughts. And with these descriptions, you should have some idea of the scale of ambition of these characters. With the discovery of beings greater than them came a desire to ascend into godhood, to push humanity into its next stage of evolution. The only question was, how? Blood or insight? And this was a question that split the ranks of the Bergenworth scholars. It's how we arrived at the cutscene we started at earlier, with Master Willam and Lawrence parting ways.
That's why. So you have that. So you have insight that you can use, and you have the blood, like for example, the blood vials that you can use. Interesting, very interesting. The way it explains, it sounds so intricate and difficult for some reason. But
Master
let's continue.
Willam, I've come to bid you farewell.
Oh, I know. You think now to betray me.
From this cutscene, we can infer that Lawrence was a high-ranking student of Master Willam, because firstly, Lawrence refers to Willam as Master, and secondly, Willam clearly regards Lawrence highly enough to call this departure a betrayal.
No, but you will never listen.
Lawrence disagrees. He does not see it as betrayal, and here we come to the heart of what their disagreement is about. Essentially, it boils down to the difference between the two resources in the game. Willam believes man requires insight and knowledge to ascend. Lawrence believes in the power of blood. Lawrence attempts to reassure Willam telling him he will always fear the old blood, but that this fear will not stop him using it.
I tell you, I will not forget our adage.
Interesting.
We are born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood. Our eyes are yet to open.
Fear the old blood. I must take my leave.
I don't know what to say about this.
Lawrence leaves the Bergenworth scholars, presumably with a small group of rebels, and goes on to found the Healing Church. Willam remains at Bergenworth and attempts to elevate his thoughts to a higher plane. He will return to our story at a later time, so while I tell you of what Lawrence went on to do, imagine Willam here in Bergenworth, sitting in his rocking chair over the lake, musing on how to acquire insight and elevate his thoughts to a higher plane. Everything Lawrence would come to achieve was based on the knowledge he had come by in Bergenworth. In retrospect, we clearly see why Willam saw Lawrence's departure as a betrayal. Perhaps Willam himself even planted these ideas in Lawrence's mind. A note in the lecture hall reads, "Master Willam was right. Evolution without courage will be the ruin of our race." Lawrence had courage, but it is like
It's funny that within the game, and this is not only for Bloodborne but also the other Soulsborne games, it's that the lore is like sprinkled everywhere in the game, and it's just up to the player to connect the dots of reading the items, of reading for example the Caro runes or the specific things, papers that you can find within the game, to connect the dots to make out what the lore and what the game actually is about, instead of just beating the monsters, beating Nightmare, beating the end boss, and that's it. Because most of the people do that.
likely that his courage bordered on arrogance. The Bergenworth student uniform states, "The Healing Church has its roots in Bergenworth and naturally borrows heavily from its uniform design. The focus not on knowledge or thought, but on pure pretension would surely bring Master Willam to despair, if only he knew." So Lawrence threw caution to the wind and put his faith in the old blood. Think on human history. Imagine if, in
Is that connected to how we start within the game?
any era, a church was founded that had access to a substance that could cure any illness. Imagine if this church gave it freely to a city, how powerful that city would become, and how powerful the church would become within it. This is exactly what happened in Yharnam. People came far and wide to be treated with the miraculous blood of the gods, and the people of Yharnam put their faith in the Healing Church. In fact, what happened in Yharnam is eerily similar to what happened in the tombs deep below, where the blood was originally found. And as you know, many Chalice dungeons, especially those of Loran, are now overrun by horrific beasts.
I did not know that.
The Lower Loran Chalice states, "There are trace remains of medical procedures in parts of ailing Loran. Whether these were attempts to control the scourge of the beasts or the cause of the outbreak is unknown."
Or I haven't attentively listened to it, but who's Loran?
The ailing Loran Chalice states, "The tragedy that struck this ailing land of Loran is said to have its root
The land of Loran. Never mind. Never mind what I just said.
in the scourge of the beast. Some have made the dreaded extrapolation that Yharnam may be next."
Well, obviously.
Yharnam was next. Through overuse of the healing blood, the city would eventually succumb to the scourge of the beast. Until then, though, Lawrence and the Healing Church managed to grow in power with the miraculous healing properties of their special, yet infected, blood. Yharnam grows to become a city of worship and fear. As you explore throughout the city, you see the influence of the church everywhere. With Yharnam's resources, Lawrence clearly had the power to grow the church beyond what would have been possible at Bergenworth. All the while, he continued exploring the labyrinth below Yharnam. The Tomb Prospector set reads, "Attire of the Tomb Prospectors who explore the old labyrinth on behalf of the Healing Church. The Healing Church traces its roots to Bergenworth and is therefore aware of the ruins' true importance. These ruins contain much more than hunter trinkets. Indeed, they hide the very secrets of the old Great Ones, sought after by those with the insight to imagine greatness." On
Great.
top of this, Lawrence split the church into multiple branches, each with a different purpose. There was the choir, the School of Mensis, and the workshop, We'll get to these branches as they become appropriate, but the main purpose of the church, at least to the people of Yharnam, was the administration of blood healing. Within the Grand Cathedral itself lies a note that says, "Heir to the ritual of blood, purveyor of ministration, place your hand upon the altar's sacred covering and inscribe Master Lawrence's adage upon your flesh." Blood ministers would have been those who administered the blood healing.
I know we should like do this, but I never knew that there was a note over there. Interesting.
How else would the people of Yharnam be so obsessed with blood? In Yharnam, they produced more blood than alcohol, as the former is more intoxicating. However, the ministration of blood was likely a means to an end, for the healing church still intended to commune with the Great Ones, in hopes of ascending humanity to a higher plane. This task was given to the choir, a group who were a part of the healing church. Members of the choir are both the highest-ranking clerics of the healing church and scholars who continued the work that began at Bergenworth. The eye covering indicates
When you think about it, it's kind of dark, isn't it?
their debt to the teachings of Master Willam, even though their paths diverged. The choir, garbed in black and white, with the familiar eye covering, occupied the upper cathedral ward. It seems to have been their job to research and make contact with the Great Ones. The Great Is Chalice became the cornerstone of the choir, the elite delegation of the healing church. It was also the first great chalice brought back to the surface since the time of Bergenworth and allowed the choir to have audience with Ebritus. Ebritus was the left-behind
Ebritas. I always call her Ebrietas for some reason.
Great One, who came to reside below the Grand Cathedral. We are told that the Grand Cathedral is the birthplace of the healing church's special blood, and if the church were indeed using the blood of the Great Ones, then who's to say it wasn't Ebritus's blood? The Augur of Ebritus is one of the secret rites of the choir, used by the high-ranking members of the healing church. Use phantasms, the invertebrates known to be augurs of the Great Ones, to partially summon abandoned Ebritus, one of the few rites that allow one to directly utilize the power of the Great Ones and evidence that the choir had approached the eldritch truth. Augur of Ebritus is an arcane method of fighting that was actually shared with the second subsection of the healing church, the School of Mensis. The upper echelons of the healing church are formed by the School of Mensis, based in the unseen village. This brings us to our next important character, Mikolash, who was likely the head of the School of Mensis. The School of Mensis was, as the name implies, a place of learning, research, and experimentation.
Mikolash was
for
a
the
bitch,
healing
though.
church. Their student set reads, "The healing church has its roots in Bergenworth and naturally borrows heavily from its uniform design." The school was based below Yharnam, in a place called Yahargul, the unseen village.
Yeah, I knew
Clearly,
that.
the work of Mensis was intended to be kept a secret from the people of Yharnam.
I did know that wait, what did he say again?
The school was based below Yharnam, in a place called Yahargul, the unseen village. Clearly, the work of Mensis was intended to be kept a secret.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew that the work of Mensis was supposed to be kept a secret. That's why it was below in Yahargul, if I pronounced it right. I did knew that. That was from the 13 minutes that we just watched. That was definitely a thing that I knew. But a lot of things that he has just been like telling us, I did not know.
From the people of Yharnam.
Like of
In fact,
Bloodborne
as
knowledge
time
here.
went on, the school increasingly seems to have been working alone, even separately from the healing church itself. The Yahargul attire tells us, the hunters of Yahargul answer to the village's founders, the School of Mensis. Hunters in name only, these kidnappers blend into the night wearing this attire. These were not true hunters. That title was saved for the third subsection of the healing church, the Hunters of the Workshop. These capable warriors of the church appeared as the scourge of the beast began to show in Yharnam.
Isn't that us when we play the game?
The workshop hunters served under Gurman, the first hunter, who you're all familiar with. The hunter attire reads, one of the standard articles of hunter attire fashioned at the workshop, a fine piece of hunter attire that provides stable defense to anyone facing Yharnam's beastly threat, allows one to stalk beasts unannounced by cover of night. It's possible the unannounced part of that sentence is to do with killing beasts without them noticing you, but it could also be because the workshop was a secret institution. The original workshop is located in a very hard to find part of Cathedral Ward, and think about it, you don't want
That was very hard to find if if you didn't explore enough.
The townsfolk believing that the blood is turning them into beasts. When that information is floating around, you want to avoid panic at all costs. So the hunters hunted beasts under the cover of night, but the hunters and the beastly scourge couldn't stay a secret forever. In what would come to be called Old Yharnam, a new disease appeared. It was called ashen blood. I call it a disease, but the small medicinal tablets used to treat it actually counteract poison. A tablet used to treat ashen blood, the baffling sickness that ravaged Old Yharnam long ago. These tablets only provide short-term relief. The ashen blood ailment eventually triggered the spread of the beastly scourge. Think about that. We know that the old blood heals every illness. We know that the old blood causes the beastly scourge, and we now know that the ashen blood caused the beastly scourge to spread. In short, it seems like people were infected with the ashen blood, and the medicine that they had only provided short-term relief, and they were forced to imbibe the old blood instead. It's even possible that the healing church used this ashen blood to gain power, swooping in with this miracle cure and liberating the people from the ashen blood disease. Since ashen blood seems poisonous in nature, perhaps the church even poisoned the populace just for that excuse to use the old blood. Because that excuse to get the populace to believe in you, that would have been so powerful. But whatever the case, the beastly scourge was triggered overwhelmingly in Old Yharnam. We know that much, to the point where they actually had to burn it down and cordon off Old Yharnam from the rest of the city. The red moon hangs low, and beasts rule the streets. Are we left no other choice than to burn it all to cinders? With this, the hunt became known to all. Perhaps the church feared an uprising from the people of Yharnam, for a note in central Yharnam reads, "When the hunt began, the healing church left us, blocking the great bridge to Cathedral Ward as Old Yharnam burned to the ground that moonlit night." As a result, Gurman's workshop was sealed and closed. With the scourge of the beast known to all, perhaps there was no need for secrecy anymore. The Saw Hunter badge comes to read, "Badge crafted long ago at the workshop, attests to one's prowess as a hunter of beasts. The workshop is gone, and no group recognizes this meaningless badge." At this point, the church retreats. They block themselves off in up.
But how does that connect to the dream? If that's the right thing, because you can find that workshop, but whenever you go back to level up and anything, how's that connected, or will you get to that?
A Cathedral Ward and come up with a new strategy for dealing with the scourge of the beasts that is spreading throughout Yharnam. Eventually, the workshop hunters would disband, and the church founded the Church Hunter Workshop in its place. Ludwig was the chief hunter of the healing church.
Oh boy, that's DLC.
Which consisted of hunters garbed in black and white.
Oh.
The Black Church Hunter...
The outfits in this game are fire though, I swear.
Attire reads, "Most healing church hunters are elementary doctors who understand the importance of early prevention of the scourge, achieved by disposing of victims, even potential victims, before signs of sickness manifest themselves. Their black attire is synonymous with fear and that peculiar Yharnam madness. The Black Church Hunter's job was clear. Remove any sign of the scourge of the beast, even if it hasn't manifested itself yet. The fear that it inspired in the citizens shows. Most in Upper Cathedral Ward are deathly afraid of the church. The White Church Hunters' jobs were a bit different. These doctors are superiors to the Black Preventative Hunters and specialists in experimentally backed blood ministration and the scourge of the beast. They believe that medicine is not a means of treatment, but rather a method of research, and that some knowledge can only be attained by exposing oneself to sickness. Their experimentation might explain the monstrously large church giants who would have been particularly useful in the fight against the beasts. Ludwig's greatsword exhibits several departures from the workshop's design, suggesting that the church anticipated much larger, inhuman beasts. On top of this, Ludwig took a much more overt approach to beast hunting. Nightly, he would embark upon central Yharnam across the Great Bridge to fight back against the beasts. But he was not alone. The population of central Yharnam joined the hunt as well, swelling the ranks of the hunters. Ludwig, the first hunter of the healing church, once recruited Yharnamites to serve as hunters.
Really?
This hunter's attire was made for new recruits and has excellent straightforward defense, but not nearly enough to allow an ordinary man to stand any real chance against the beasts. It sounds like a very clever move, as it probably stopped the populace blaming
Away! Away! That's the first thing that comes to mind when I see this.
the church, and likely formed more of a us versus them mentality. Meanwhile, in Bergenworth, Master Willam had an epiphany. We are thinking on the basest of planes. What we need are more eyes. Willam took this very literally. The remaining students of Bergenworth appear to have been transformed into multi-eyed, fly-like creatures, and more importantly, Willam himself found an umbilical cord of a Great One, which was a very significant and powerful artifact. Provost Willam sought the cord in order to elevate his being and thoughts to those of a Great One by lining his brain with eyes, the only choice he knew if man were ever to match their greatness. Used to gain insight, and, so they say, eyes on the inside, although no one remembers what that truly entails. It's difficult to know exactly how Willam came across or created an umbilical cord, so we'll have to go into that in another video. Just know that he has one for now. When we encounter Willam, he directs us to the Great Lake. The power of great bodies of water is actually referenced in a few runes. Great volumes of water serve as a bulwark guarding sleep, and an augur of the eldritch truth. Overcome this hindrance and seek what is yours. The lake and what lies within it hides the truth.
The first time I fought this boss, I had nightmares.
Rom, the Bergenworth spider, lies within, and there's a lot we don't know about her, but I'll tell you what we do know. The Bergenworth spider hides all manner of rituals and keeps our lost master from us. A terrible shame. The spider is certain to reveal nothing, for true enlightenment need not be shared. I believe this is what the vacuous part of Rom's name refers to. This creature is somehow hiding the true nature of the world, and when you defeat it, you don't need insight to see the world for what it truly is. The night moves forward, the blood moon descends, and after killing Rom, we are finally granted access to what remains of Yahar'gul, home of Mikolash and his School of Mensis. The School of Mensis appears to have grown apart from the Healing Church and the choir. There is little information on Mikolash and his school, but we can prove that there was a split. Firstly, Mikolash uses the Augur of Abritus, a secret rite of the choir shared among the high-ranking members of the Healing Church. This suggests he was trusted with this information and was once a sane member of the church. To prove that there was a split between the Healing Church's choir and the school, we note clear signs of distrust and fighting between the groups. Imprisoned inside Yahar'gul is the corpse of a member of the choir. And inside the Nightmare of Mensis, we find who the official guide calls Edgar, Choir Intelligence. Clearly, the choir was suspicious of what was going on in Yahar'gul with the School of Mensis, and based on what we find there in Yahar'gul, it seems the choir had good
Those amygdalas are fucking terrifying.
reason to be. The School of Mensis were attempting to commune with the Great Ones, and they succeeded. As Willam did, they found an umbilical cord. We find 4 cords in the game that allow contact with the Great Ones, and Mikolash had one. This cord granted Mensis audience with Murgo, but resulted in the stillbirth of their brains. As we know, most Great Ones reside in the Nightmare Realm, and whatever ritual they performed with this cord ripped Mensis and its students into a nightmare. That's why you find the lecture hall in the nightmare, and that's why there's hundreds of dead students throughout Yahar'gul, all wearing the cage that appears to have delivered them to their harrowing nightmare. Mikolash's corpse provides a gateway into the nightmare, and we find him here, clearly insane, wandering the halls. Mikolash believes that it's possible to ascend towards becoming a Great One, citing Rom as his example. Rom, however, is not fully developed, rather she has the blood of their kin. And let's just go back to Rom for a second. When you defeat Rom, Queen Yharnam appears.
Yeah, I was always thinking about what the heck, because she always stands before the wet nurse, where you hear that baby, terrifying sounds, by the way, crying. But what is that connection? I never understood that.
Is a Tumerian woman who has clearly suffered a childbirth gone horribly wrong. She is linked to the Nightmare of Mensis, to the ritual that Rom was hiding, and she appears in this nightmare, looking up towards Murgo's loft, where Murgo and his wet nurse reside. Queen Yharnam hails from the Tumerian civilization that was in power long ago, and she was blessed with a child of the Great Ones. From the way she appears outside Mogo's loft, it is clear that her consciousness, her spirit, was pulled into this nightmare as well. Even when you encounter Queen Yharnam's real self in the Tumerian tombs, the baby Mogo screams whenever you hit her, and even when you kill Yharnam in the tombs, it is clear that she is not actually dead, but her horrific consciousness is only asleep, and it stirs in unsettling motions. Her consciousness seems to be showing up here in the nightmare, completely separate from her physical form. The same thing is happening with you, with Mikolash, with the Great Ones in the nightmare with you. You all exist in this nightmare that Mensis created. So your next question is, which Great One impregnated Yharnam with Mogo all those years ago? I believe it is formless Erden. The Great One Erden, lacking form, exists only in voice. To cite the fastest evidence to present, there's nothing in the cradle after you defeat Mogo.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
Mogo himself, the child, has no form. Also, his cries are heard throughout your adventure. He exists everywhere. Additionally, Mogo's wet nurse has no form under those robes. And also, the women that are impregnated when this blood moon descends are all related to Erden. But we'll get to that in another video. When you defeat Mogo's wet
There is so much fucking lore, I swear.
nurse, you get a message unlike any other that you've received thus far. Instead of prey slaughtered, you get nightmare slain. You defeated a true Great One that's elevated its consciousness to the nightmare realm, and the game is nearing its end. However, all of this should make you think. The nightmare of Mensis isn't the only dream world I've set foot in, is it?
Nope.
This entire time, I've actually been journeying out from the hunter's dream, guided by lanterns that led me to Mogo and her wet nurse, all of which is made possible by German and his doll. Travel to the hunter's workshop in the waking world and seek the truth. Every Great One loses its child and then yearns for a surrogate. The third umbilical cord precipitated the encounter with the pale moon, which beckoned the hunters and conceived the hunter's dream. Next to the cord is the
That's what it was called, the hunter's dream. Oh, how can I forget? But the connections, damn. Holy
animated
shit.
doll. Take a hairpin from this real doll and then pass it along to the doll in the dream. When you give her the hairpin, she sheds a single tear, which reads, "Created from the shining silver doll tear, this blood gem is a quiet yet unfaltering friend that continually restores HP, the life essence of a hunter. Perhaps this doll's creator had wished for such a friend, albeit in vain." It's clear that German called upon the Great Ones using an umbilical cord, similar to the manner in which Mikolash did. The Great Ones that inhabit the nightmare are sympathetic in spirit and often answer when called upon. German, lonely and lacking purpose after the church had no more need for his workshop, must have called upon the Great Ones. A Great One responded, the pale moon presence, and imprisoned German within the dream. For while German sleeps, he utters this rare piece of dialogue that clearly shows he does not want to be here.
Oh, Lawrence, Master Willam, somebody help me. Unshackle me, please. Anybody. I've had enough of this dream. The night blocks all sight. Oh, somebody, please.
So for what purpose was the dream conceived? Well, the doll tells us that countless hunters have passed through here, and all of the graves tell us that as well. And Eileen and Jura both have dialogue that is testament to that fact. They talk about how they've been through this dream before as well. So why are hunters being sent through this dream, unable to pass away, just forced to go out into the world and kill beasts? It becomes clearer when you kill Mogo's wet nurse. You return to the hunter's workshop burning down, the dream's purpose fulfilled. Ergo, the purpose of your dream and your hunt appears to have been to slay a Great One. 3 endings are presented to you. The first. German offers you a way out of the dream. He asks you to accept your death, for if you do, then you'll awaken in the waking world of Yharnam, and your consciousness will be no longer linked to the dream. The trophy for this ending reads, "You lived through the hunt and saw another day." The second option is to reject German. He suggests that to do so must be a decision caused by madness, and he pits his will against yours to forcibly remove you from the dream. All the while, he entreats you to accept your death, and be freed from this dream. If you overpower Gurman, we meet with the Moon Presence, the being that appears to have conceived this nightmare. Just like the nightmare Murgo conceived, it embraces you, and in the cutscene to follow, we see ourselves performing the same role that Gurman did, hosting the dream, likely a slave to the Moon Presence, or perhaps its surrogate child, guiding hunters throughout this dream in an effort to slay other Great Ones. The trophy for this ending reads, "Captivated by the Moon Presence, you pledge to watch over the hunter's dream." There's one key thing you need.
There's only one ending I've always had. Rejecting Gurman, beating Gurman, and beating the Moon Presence. Never had the two other endings.
To remember, the Great Ones are a race, but they're a
I did know about them though.
race unlike any other. Each Great One is entirely unique, and they do not necessarily work together. In fact, from the existence of the dream, I'm almost inclined to believe that the Moon Presence is hostile towards other Great Ones. In the third and final ending, you consume 3 umbilical cords and resist the will of the Moon Presence. You overpower it, and in the cutscene to follow, the doll coddles the being you have become. You have ascended, truly, as few have before you. The trophy description states, "You became an infant Great One, lifting humanity into its next childhood." So after the end of all this, you probably still have questions. What is pale blood? Why does the Moon Presence guide hunters towards killing beasts and Great Ones? Which ending is the good ending? For all this and more, you need to be subscribed to the channel. I'll have another video out soon analyzing the...
So, I have more questions now. And definitely the ones that he just said. But, damn, that, like, everything he said, I did not know about. And I'm so sorry that I didn't say much during watching this. But damn, I just was so speechless. So, with the endings of the game, I always thought, before I've heard it from a friend, that there were only 2 endings. The one where you accept Gurman's, what would you say, proposal? And the second one, beating Moon Presence, Gurman and Moon Presence both, after consuming the umbilical cords. So that was also a very surprise. Like, I've never seen really the cutscenes, and it doesn't matter if it's spoilers or not, because I know most of like the endings now from the game anyway. I'm just so surprised. I just don't know what to say really. But there are definitely more videos about this from Bloodborne lore, like the Great Ones, Bloodborne lore Vaatividya. So we just watched the lore. Then there's lore hunting, the Beast Hunt, Hunt for the Moonlight Greatsword, Ascend the Astral Clock Tower, the Wrath of Mother Cause, Father Gascoigne. There are like 18 videos. We're gonna watch most of them because we want to learn more about the lore, and they're all shorter videos than the longest one, and this has been going on for quite a long time already. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sorry I didn't commentate much on it because I was just so speechless. I'm definitely gonna watch the other videos from Vaatividya to learn more about the Bloodborne lore. So next would be, for example, the Beast Hunt and the Moonlight Greatsword and such. So tune in for that the next time. And if you liked the video, drop a like. Otherwise, subscribe, comment, whatever. You don't have to, but it would be fun. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Bye.